Yes, I'm Nick Casella, and I am going to, discuss, the video for our final project. I went ahead and selected the radical discourse and enemy construction, justifying the interment solution to the Japanese problem during World War II. Just to give a little, you know, basic, information on the issue, which I'm sure most of you are already aware. The internment of Japanese Americans in the United States was the forced relocation and incarceration of from 110 to 120,000 Japanese people who lived interior of the United States at the time, and this occurred shortly after the attacks of Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Um, and then to note and to place significance on this, 62% of these, Japanese people were, you know, national-born United States citizens. So the significance that I found in the works by, Gina Petinito, and I'm pretty sure I slaughtered her last name, so I apologize for that. But was the fact that what she said that all conflicts have situations where one group casts the other group as the enemy, and she gives examples kind of staying within the World War II era. She, uh, I think, for accessibility, because it's more well known, is Nazism and the Holocaust. Um, alike the United States and the Japanese, the Holocaust and the Nazis, um, practice this, to the T, where they cast the Jews as the enemy, and just to distinguish the two, you know the Holocaust is much more severe than how the United States and the whole Japanese encampments happened. So I just wanted to note on that. I'm not saying both are at the same level, but the basic practices of what she said, where one group casts the other as an enemy, those basic characteristics are there. And getting back to the example of Germany, they proposed to purge their enemy, the Jew, you know from and away from the German community. So to further explain on that, it kind of initially started as a Jewish problem, and then transitioned into kind of like a natural history aspect, which is noted in the article, and ultimately resulted in the final solution. And how this occurred was, there's powerful people drew from racial stocks of knowledge to inform, and tarnish the image of the enemy, which was the Jew. And then in the United States situation that my paper is going to talk on is the Japanese. And this, practice is or was carefully conducted, and made it, reasonable to the common person. Um, Nazism, getting back to that example, drew from available cultural resources to fashion a Jewish collective representation, and the keyword there is collective, that embodied all that was profane, and to both correlate here, where you group all Japanese together and you group all, you know, of the Jews together, and you get away from individual people, and you go more towards like a collective group. So in the example of the Holocaust, collective representation of the Jewish people, the goal was to get as far away from Christian Germans. So claimants treated the Jew as a master status, selectively ignoring individual variations within the category, and endeavoring to conceive people that all Jews, not just a select few, constituted a problem, and that applied to the example I'm going to use in the paper is with the Japanese in the United States during World War II and after Pearl Harbor. So I know in the paper we have to come up with three theories to include in the text. Just for time sakes reasons, I'm only gonna note on two. One is I feel I have a strong case to correlate with the article with the Japanese you know after Pearl Harbor. I'm sorry. So the first theory I'm going to talk about is the social psychological approach. Firstly, within this theory, conflict, as applied to international conflict, is influenced by collective needs and fears, which that directly applies to, both examples I used before. And as stated by Kelman, human needs are often articulated and fulfilled through important collectivities such as ethnic groups, the national group, and the state. So it's said that conflict will appear when either fulfillment is not met or there's a threat to such fulfillment, or such a threat is made to basic needs. So to further explain this, such basic needs can be depicted as ethnic identity, safety and security, which is a big one with the example I'm using with the attacks after Pearl Harbor, autonomy, and a sense of justice. So once within this theory, the realm, once conflict has initiated, the social psychological characteristics further set in. So meaning that once such conflict is underway, collective needs such as identity, security, as well as fears and concerns correlating to overall survival weigh heavily on the continuation and escalation of the conflict in question. It is further addressed that such social and psychological aspects will also refrain conflicting parties from negotiating and accommodating one another due to the slight possibility of individual compromise. So, this point of the theory, I have an issue with because, in my opinion, there was no such compromise, and both examples used during the Holocaust and with the Japanese and how they were, treated after Pearl Harbor. So within the paper, I'm gonna kind of, try to bring out that flaw and explain why. So, additionally, it's further addressed that such, um, social and psychological analysis can be particularly, helpful in explaining why and how once a conflict has started. Normative and perceptual processes that promote its escalation are set into motion and create or intensify barriers to conflict resolution. So, in most cases, situations at a international level have, public support, or public support is an ideal resource for the leaders engaged with conflict resolution. practices. So when social support is achieved, this will only increase acceptance on future policy, which has a direct causation from negotiation. And to kind of wrap up this theory and how it's, I initially talked about how one group, attacks the other and perceives them as, an enemy or has a negative, you know, uh, kind of like aspect to them. During World War II, uh, many perceived America as a white country, um, and so firmly rooted in a common sense of discourse. This notation was almost undetectable, you know, and revealed through uh, the usage of such pronouns that the author noted on as we and our and us, and in the situation I'm using with the Japanese, they're considered them. So moving on to my second theory that I'm going to use, and the reason why I wanted to note on this is because I am no way trying to correlate this with my topic, because it's not the the best theory. But the reason why I chose this is because it was one of the first theories that we were issued in the course, and I liked it. So given the opportunity, I want to dig back in and talk about it. So the basis of this theory, cooperation and competition, um, can be broken down into two basic ideas: relation to the type of interdependence among goals and the people involved in a given situation, and the type of action that the people involved take. So further embedded within the theory are two basic types of goal interdependence, either positive or negative. Basically, positively linked members only have a two option outcome, either succeeding or failing together. But the basis is cooperation. So, however, in the reverse, negative linkage will produce unparalleled outcomes, such as one member will succeed with the other failing, or vice versa, right? So, further implanted within the structures of the theory are two basic types of action by an individual: effective actions, which increase the overall likelihood of achieving such goal, and the bungling actions, which produces a reverse effect, which intensifies the actor's chances of goal achievement. So those are the two theories that I'm going to talk about now in this video. I wanted to incorporate some pictures and special effects, but I'm not the best at the computer, so I apologize for that. But like I said in the paper, I'm going to note on an additional theory as requested, and of course go into greater detail, but hopefully this helps. And yeah, I'll be reading everyone else's videos, so best of luck everybody, and thank you.